It's hard to be disappointed, even devastated, especially when the stakes are really, really high. When the systems that are supposed to protect us, defend us, support us, help us rise, really only use us as a footstool for their own agendas so they can step on us and up. When we learn our whole lives to trust the systems, to trust the educational institutions, the religious dogmas, all of that, in God we trust, right? We're taught from such a young age. We recite it at such a young age and believe that to follow these systems, to serve these systems is right, is honorable, is patriotic. It's hard to learn time and time again that these systems were designed to fail us because they were only made to serve the people who created them. The privileged few who were born into them or born into the families that pass on these systems of only the few rise, only the few have control, only the privileged get to decide. Yet what they decide affects us all. Well, I'm here on my sick bed because I have strep throat and probably shouldn't even be talking to you today, but I finally had the semi strength to take a shower. And now that I at least don't feel so grimy, I just have to share something with you real quick before I lay back down. So forgive my voice right now. Again, I probably shouldn't even be speaking, but I am today because I have to tell you that there is freedom in failure, not our own, but freedom in the acceptance that systems have failed us. And to explain this more, I'm going to talk about some of the supernatural things, the ways that I've been failed in ghostly and earthly ways, and then talk about how all of that ties into the earth, into our current conflict, into our lives. And I hope it will help you today. So, in my episode, I was afraid of all the ghosts. I talk about how my childhood was one full of fear. My whole life is one run by fear, actually. And as I get older and finally have access to some of the wisdom that I didn't have access to in my childhood, teens, 20s, I'm learning that some of that fear was there to protect me, and some of it was conditioned so that I wouldn't want power. I talked to you about the spider, which when my husband listened to that episode, he's like, God, that's creepy. And I'm like, yeah, it is creepy. It was terrifying when I was younger, and it's crazy that I have a memory from when I was 3 and 4 because it must have been strong to remember something at 38 years old that happened when I was 3 and 4 years old. But the spider came around a lot, right? I would see it in my room, I would see it in my dreams, and it could talk and it had a face, and once I learned about my psychic abilities, I learned that it was representative of that. Not everybody sees, the spider ghost in their room, although I know some people do see things and I honor your gifts as well. Now, I can't tell you for sure what that spider was because I think it was many things. Sure, it could have been an evil entity that sensed my gift and was around. It could have been representative of some negative energy around me, but I think it could also represent something else because sometimes things appear scary to us before we fully understand them. We can be afraid of our own power. We can be afraid of ancient wisdom when we're in a body or we're in an environment that lacks the tools to understand it. Since I've been studying uh, the natural world and all the beings in it, I've learned more about spiders. Thanks to the Animal Speak book by Ted Andrews that I read, I learned that spiders, as a spiritual symbol, actually are symbolic of feminine creation, of the tie between death and rebirth, of creating sustaining webs that seem invisible until the sun shines on them. And then you see all the intricate ways that things are connected. I've learned that spider was actually seen and associated with language, the creation of words, due to how their webs would form certain shapes. And that those who have a spider come into their lives as spiritually may have particular magic with words. Well, I've always loved words, right? And I am female, and I am coming to accept the balance of my female and male energy more and more all the time. And yesterday, when I was laying in my bed, there's a window behind where I lay, and my husband was sitting in the chair talking to me, and all of a sudden he got this look on his face where he was like, for those of you who are on audio, just picture somebody's eyes widening. They stop talking and they stare. And I'm just like, what the fuck? What is it? What are you doing? And he goes, there's a silhouette of a spider, a huge ass spider on the window behind the curtain. And I'm like, well, just fucking tell me that. Don't let me just sit, beneath the wrath of Shelob, So I got up because I just don't fuck around. I'm not really the freezing type, okay? So I get up, I turn around, I look in the curtain, I don't see anything. But he swears he saw the silhouette of a spider, a big ass spider. And so I'm looking in the curtain, I don't see anything. But then I see this big ass thick spider on the actual window in the middle of this beautifully spun web. And it's a spider unlike any I've ever seen. It's not the daddy long legs you find in the corner of your bathroom. It was thick. It had a thick body and long legs and eyes that I could see. Whenever you can see the black beady little eyes of a spider, it's a big spider. And I was fascinated by it. And it had built a web right outside the window that's right above where I had been laying, sick in bed. And I wasn't as afraid of it as one would think. There was, a barrier with the screen and the window. And if anything, although it was creepy, the more that I thought about that spider as I laid there sick, the more that I realized it might have been watching over me. It might have been taking care of me, entering my thoughts as I was sick, because we've never seen a spider there before. We've lived in this house for 4 years, and a spider, especially when that big, has never made a web like that before. And of course, I didn't take a picture of it because I was taking in the moment, but I wanted a picture of it so I can show you for this episode. If it happens to appear before I upload it, I will show you the picture. If it doesn't, I'm still deciding if its web is still there. I may just show you its web, or I may find a picture of the kind of spider it was on the internet. I'm not sure which one yet, but maybe it'll make an appearance before I'm done recording so I can get that picture of you, or for you, not of you. We're not there yet. So anyway, I started thinking about the spider again and how when I was younger, I was afraid of the one that came to me. And it could be possible that I was afraid of my own creative force. I was afraid of my own power because there wasn't a safe place for it yet. Think about this, especially if you're a woman. We are not taught to want power, right? And a lot of the stories we watch and things we learn about in history really only show power as something corrupt. Power is too often connected with evil. And certainly, there's lots of people out there who use their power for evil, to take advantage of, to exploit. However, power in and of itself is not a bad thing. And for the first time in my life, I've wanted it. I've wanted it because I have seen how many systems have failed me and people I love. You see, when I quit teaching, I wasn't just the one who was failed. It was a handful of people creating an unsafe environment where I was teaching. But there was a whole population of kids and of staff who were there to learn, who were there to teach, who were there to honor, who were there to build something creative. Yet, because of the corrupt system they were inside, where people were doing dangerous, harassing things and getting away with it, they were there to learn. They were trying to create, and they were failed by the system that they were in. I think it's very reflective of our world right now. There are so many of you out there who just want to create a safe place for everyone. Yet, no matter how hard you try, the system is just stacked against you. My family and I, we want simple things. We want to keep all of our children safe. We want our children to live in a place where they can creatively thrive, where they can be healthy. But due to the way certain systems have failed us, no matter how hard we tried, we haven't been allowed to keep our kids safe, no matter how hard we try. We haven't been allowed the resources that we need to raise our family up. The systems have failed us, just like my battery is failing me now. I've been doing this lately where I get so excited to talk to you that I forget that I should probably plug in the computer first. And sorry, I accidentally closed the screen too. I forget that I should plug this in so that I don't find myself in an awkward situation like that, but forgive me. It's best that we have a couple awkward moments instead of the computer just dying and then we lose everything, right? Comfortable with discomfort. Here we go. We're almost there. I'll probably accidentally pull the light down as I do this. So if it's crashing down on me, then we're in this together. I've had this reoccurring dream, and this all ties into the spider, I swear. I've had this reoccurring dream of being back in school when I'm not supposed to be there. And I had it again last night. I was trying to teach this lesson plan, and I didn't have what I needed to teach. I was thrust into this situation I knew I shouldn't have been in, but I was in it and I was flustered and I was trying to teach anyway. Well, what I learned from that is that when you get to a point, and all the ways the systems have failed my family, when you get to a point where you're just failed over and over again, there's freedom in accepting that the systems will fail you. There's relief when you go, yeah, you're not going to help me. No matter how good I am, no matter how smart I am, no matter how right I am, you're not going to help me because you have your own agenda and it's not keeping me and my family safe. It's not creating an equal world. Okay. Once you accept that, you give yourself the freedom of learning what you can make. And what makes this road so hard is that you don't have all the answers right away. You don't have a path that is clean cut for you like the systems create, right? The systems create clear paths for us. You go to school, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you retire, you get a part-time job and keep working, right? It's this clear-cut path that's supposed to work for everyone, but it doesn't, right? And it shouldn't, because we're not meant to live that cookie cutter life. And there's freedom. And as somebody who tried to follow that path and just found myself in a wild amount of debt, I haven't even gone into the fact that I got an advanced degree like I was supposed to. And the first job I was offered was $11 an hour. Okay. I hate how millennials often get mixed up with Gen Z. Okay. Millennials, those of us who are in our 30s and some of us in our 40s, like, we are not Gen Z. We are the kids who went to college, who worked really hard. And I graduated college in 2010. The economy crashed in 2008. So we entered a world that was set up to not have affordable housing or high paying jobs, no matter the debt I went into to get my education. So all kinds of systems have failed me. I spent $80,000 to get an advanced degree and was offered an entry-level job in my field of $11 an hour. Yeah. So there's a lot that's wrong with the world. I left that world and I took a lot of risks. And those risks have been terrifying, but they have given me the freedom of learning that our true freedom, that the true direction this country needs to go in, is not one built on the systems that we have. It can't be. The systems that we have do not work. We have to get creative with what we can make. And what might scare you might be the very power that you need to take hold of. When I was in a little body, a little 3 and 4 year old body, I was terrified of the spider that showed up in my room. I was terrified of my psychic gifts for a long time. But once I learned what they were, once I had the tools that I needed, I could develop them. I started to want power, and I wanted power not to dictate, but to create a world that's actually equal. I wanted the platform and the resources to protect what's precious, to create a country that doesn't have systems that put 58% of children who are in a custody battle involving domestic abuse back into the home with their abuser, so that we just breed abuse cycle after abuse cycle and then have an abusive leader who many refer to as God. The religion that I was raised to believe in failed me over and over again. One thing I don't share with people a lot is that I dove into that religion harder than anybody else, right? I studied theology in college. I meditated on Jesus. I attended so many different churches because I was looking for the one that I could really grab onto. I joined the groups, right? The Bible groups, the support groups. I did everything you're supposed to do, and it failed and it failed and it failed, with the ultimate failure being my daughter and myself trapped in the family room with a sexual predator because the church welcomes everyone, right? Yeah, that happened at a local church. I was with my daughter trying to attend church in the family room, and there was a predator in there who wasn't questioned. And I was put in a fight, flight, or freeze moment where I had to find a way to get out of this room at church with my daughter. That about did it for me. It was at that point that I gave up on the church, partly because they did not take responsibility for it. You know, their argument was, well, we don't know everybody who goes in there. Well, you should. If you're advertising a safe place for families, you should probably have someone protecting that room to make sure that a single mother and her daughter don't end up in there with a predator. It's the same way in this country. There's a lot of empty promises about keeping kids safe, about keeping families safe, about being a place of refuge, right? Where people can thrive, get the resources that they need, build the life that they hope for. That's not what we have. And the systems that we have won't get us there. And so there's freedom in accepting that. Even though it hurts, once you know, okay, I can't look to you anymore. You can be bitter for a while. I still am sometimes. But more than the bitterness, I've settled on, okay, that's not the way to fix this, but there is a way. And that way is up to me. And for the first time in my life, I want power. And I question why I ever thought that I didn't deserve it. I want the power to create a safe place for my family, for the world, to the power to just create, to thrive, to have the resources that we need so we can live our best life. This spider that I was afraid of was my own power. It was something ancient. You know, Audre Lorde talks about that in her writing, an ancient power that women know, but that we've had to hide to keep ourselves safe in this very twisted world. I don't think it's time to hide anymore. I think it's time to look to what we can make. I think it's time that you look at what system has failed you and start taking the first step toward your own power. That system failed you, but what can you do? You won't have all the answers overnight. We never do when we're making something new, but that's the beauty of our genius is we can make when we don't know. Because let's be honest, the things that we know aren't working. These things that seem certain aren't certain. Everything is so volatile. Everything is so untrustworthy, despite the masks that it's worn. We have to make something new. This is a great time of change. And who you are has been calling to you. I held on to the memory of that spider because our fear sometimes is not meant to only scare us. Sometimes we're afraid of what we can become because we've been taught that if we become that thing, it's not going to be safe. And I've gotten to a point where I have to risk that anyway. Even if it's not totally safe for me to say that I, a woman, want power, that I want one of these leadership roles that decides the fate of people because I want it for the right reasons. I want it to keep people safe, to keep people resourced, that I want to use my power of creativity, my feminine energy to create something sustainable for everyone. Yeah, that's worth the risk. If it's not safe for me, a woman, to say, I want power, I'm going to say it anyway. I want power because I want the platform to actually create systems of safety that my family didn't get and that the kids I used to teach didn't get. I want to create safety where people don't look to abusers anymore as safety, where empty promises are not seen as testimony, as testament, as the word of God, the truth. The reality is what should reign. So, what is the thing that you're afraid of? Take a look at your own fear. What do you fear? Is part of what you fear perhaps your own power? Is part of what you fear the unknown? My friends, the unknown can be our best friend because the unknown also holds the possibility of a brand new creative world that we've never seen before. And we're the ones who are going to build it. And it can be built. And the way that we do that is by asking ourselves, what have we been afraid to create? What have we been afraid to step into because we don't know the outcome? We have to step into that. I don't know the full use of my creative power. What I do know is the things that I've written and that the spider has come back to me. You should read my story, Widow's Soul, right? It's all about Black Widow actually having power, and no surprise, that power is tied to the Black Widow. Remember how I said a huge portion of my gifts are channeled into my stories? They are, and you should read them because I have so many more suggestions of what we can do to build a better society found in fiction. Allow those words to weave themselves into your heart and teach you what you can make, because although I have some ideas, this isn't just about me. It has to be about you. It has to be something we can create together. It has to be about our gifts. And so if it's unclear, which like I said, I'm a little sick, so it could be, I'm asking you to look at something you loved when you were a child. What are some of the childhood memories that are coming back to you now? What are some of the things you were afraid to be when you were younger because you didn't have supportive systems? That's the thing. When I was a kid, I didn't have supportive systems have been failing me my whole life. Like there's freedom in realizing that, at first I thought, man, the justice system, it's just the justice system, custody courts, right? But then I look back and I'm like, no, actually, everything's been failing me my whole life. Do you think the religious institution that I was raised in was prepared to teach a very powerful psychic, female psychic? No, they would have thought I was possessed by a demon and committed me. Okay? Like, that's not a supportive system. And my gifts are not evil or demonic, they are healing, both for me, my family, and the world. So, what has been failing you? What do you need to accept? What has been failing you? And how can you take your power back by remembering your gift? It's probably something that came to you as a child. Maybe something you were taught to be fearful of because you weren't in a system that supported it. Well, you're not in that system anymore, not in the way that you used to be. Now you are a grown person. You're a grown adult who has the power to take that gift back and see how you can serve the world with it. What system do you need to accept has failed you? And what can you teach yourself? You know how I've done it? I've read a bunch of books, right? Like my family and I don't have a lot of money right now. So I started listening to podcasts. I started getting books. I started seeking wisdom now that I'm old enough and my adult mind can connect to it. And I've naturally drawn in the people who can help me. So now, as an adult in your power, what do you need to take back in terms of your own abilities? What ancient power rests inside you? The exact kind of power we need to build an actual equal world, and how can you access it now? What were you taught to fear as a child that maybe now is a gift you're meant to share with the world as an adult? Spend some time thinking about that. Because fear is a complicated creature, right? There are things we need to fear, but there were also things we were taught to fear. And maybe the things we were taught to fear are not so scary. Maybe it's our power. And maybe we were taught to fear it so we wouldn't try to use it. We need you. I need you. I need you to remember your own creative energy. I need you to use your best thinking skills, your best heart skills, your best intuition to think about how can we build actual systems of safety, not dependent on the next election, okay? Right now, let's take our time back too and think about what can I do here and now, regardless of elections? What can I do right now to build something safe and sustainable? Because I'm here to tell you, we can't always wait for elections. And sometimes we put all our time and energy into voting for the quote unquote right people and we get screwed anyway. And then we're just stuck. That doesn't feel right. None of us were meant to be stuck under the whims of billionaires and dictators. So, regardless of who's going to be in what office, let's stop putting all of our hopes in elections and maybe start an energy in elections and to reposting the crazy things that certain politicians say and instead focus on, well, what do we need to say? What do we need to make? How about we start making it right now and we stop putting so much faith in the systems that were designed to use us? Take your power back. It's about time that you did. And, share this episode. There's someone who needs to hear it. And thanks for sticking with me in my sickness. I just can't stay away from you, even when I should be in bed, and I will be going back to bed. But thank you for spending a little bit of time with me and sticking with my less than forceful voice. But you know what? Even when I'm sick, I'm still passionate. So, as always, thanks for coming.